She stood in front of her chief, the whole tribe watching. Her mother, her aunts, the women who had braided her hair since she was 4 years old, all of them watching. The chief looked at her for a long time before he spoke. When he spoke quietly. That was how she knew it was serious. Loud men make noise. The chief only went quiet when something was final. "If you marry him," he said, "you are no longer one of us." She did not flinch. She did not cry. She looked at him the way she had always looked at things that were trying to stop her, directly, without blinking. "I know," she said, and she walked out and she married him anyway. This channel tells the stories of the Texas frontier where love costs something real. Subscribe. You need to hear what happened to them. West Texas, 1883. The Apache Wars were winding down but not yet finished. The land was contested in ways that went deeper than any treaty could reach. Contested in the fields where men worked side by side, in the towns where different languages crossed at the general store, in the places where people who were supposed to be enemies looked at each other and found something unexpected. Her name was Saya. She was 22 years old. She had grown up in one of the last free Apache bands still moving through the Texas hill country. Her father had died when she was 12. Her uncle was the chief now, a serious man, a careful man, a man who had kept his people alive through years that should have killed them by knowing exactly where the lines were. His most important line was this one: "We do not mix with them, we do not trust them, we survive by staying separate." He had kept that line for 30 years, until Saya, his brother's daughter, the girl he had helped raise, looked at a Texas rancher named Daniel Holt, and decided the line did not apply to her. Daniel Holt was 28 years old. He had come to Texas from Georgia 4 years earlier, with 2 horses, $300, and the specific stubbornness of a man who has decided the life he was given is not the life he intends to keep. He had filed a land claim on 200 acres of hill country, built a one-room house himself, spent the first 2 years losing money, and the 3rd year breaking even. He was not rich, he was not becoming rich, but the land was his, and the cattle were multiplying, and he had learned enough about this country to stop being afraid of it. He met Saya at the creek, the same creek that ran along the eastern edge of his property and the western edge of the territory her band moved through. He had been fixing a fence post. She had been collecting water. They had looked at each other across the creek. She had looked at him the way she looked at everything she was trying to decide about, directly, without hurry. He had nodded, and then she had walked away with her water. He had gone back to his fence post, but he had thought about that look for 3 days. The 4th day he went back to the creek. She was not there. The 5th day she was. He did not know enough Apache to say anything useful. She knew enough English to understand more than she let on. They stood on opposite banks of the creek and talked badly at each other for an hour, and came back the next day, and the day after that. It took 4 months for Daniel to learn 20 words of Apache. It took Saya 2 weeks to learn everything she needed in English. She had always been good at language. Her uncle said it was her gift and her curse. The gift was that she understood people quickly. The curse was that she understood them accurately, including him, including what he was afraid of. They met at the creek 6 days out of 7. Daniel brought things, not gifts exactly, practical things, a better rope for the water bucket, a piece of leather she had mentioned needing for a repair. Saya brought nothing because she had understood immediately that bringing nothing was the more powerful position. You do not owe what you do not accept. In the 5th month, Daniel said something he had been building toward for weeks. He said it badly, half English, half Apache, half gestures, but she understood it. He wanted her to come and see the house. She looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "Not yet." He nodded. The 6th month she came. She stood in the doorway of the one-room house and looked at everything in it. The small table, the 2 chairs, the shelf with 4 books, and a photograph. She picked up the photograph, a family, a mother, a father, 2 boys. She looked at Daniel. He pointed to the smaller boy. She understood. She set the photograph down carefully, and she sat in one of the chairs, and they ate dinner, not a word spoken for most of it, but something decided. Her uncle found out on a Thursday. He did not find out from Saya. He found out from two young men in the band who had followed her one afternoon and seen where she went. He sent for her that evening. She came to his fire and sat across from him. He looked at her for a long time without speaking. She waited. She had learned waiting from him. "The rancher," he said. "Yes," she said. "How long?" "6 months." He looked at the fire. She had expected anger. What she got was worse. He looked tired. The specific tiredness of a man who has been fighting to hold something together for 30 years and can feel it starting to give. "You know what they do," he said. "Some of them," she said. "He is one of them." "He is one man," she said. "They are all one of them," her uncle said. "They take the land, they take the water, they take the children and put them in schools to take the language, and when there is nothing left to take, they find something else." He looked at her. "And you want to give yourself to one of them?" "I want to choose," she said. "Choosing him means leaving us. I know that." "You do not know what you are leaving," he said. "I know exactly what I am leaving," she said. "I grew up here. I know every person in this band. I know what we have and what we do not have and what we are never going to have." She looked at him. "I am not leaving because I do not love this." Her voice did not break. "I am leaving because I have to choose something to build." Her uncle looked at the fire for a long time. Then he said what he said, and she walked out. Cal Briggs had been in Rimrock for 5 days when he heard about it. He had not been looking for anything. He had been passing through as he always passed through, and had stopped because the hotel had a decent cook and his horse needed the rest. The story came to him the way stories came to him in small towns. Through the dining room, a conversation at the next table between two ranchers who thought they were being quiet. They were not being quiet. The words Cal caught were Apache girl, Holt's place, and then a laugh that told him everything about what the two men thought of the situation. Cal drank his coffee. He did not turn around. He listened. The two ranchers were not threatening anyone. They were doing something Cal had learned to watch more carefully than threats. They were talking, building the kind of talk that becomes weather, that makes the air in a town feel a certain way, that makes certain things feel permitted. Cal finished his coffee, paid for his meal, walked to the stable, and rode out to the Holt place. Daniel Holt came out onto the porch when he heard the horse. He was a careful man on his own property. He had learned that from 4 years of living on the edge of contested territory. He watched Cal ride up and stop. Old man, gray coat, white horse, no weapon visible. "Help you?" he said. "Maybe," Cal said. "My name is Cal Briggs. Mind if I step down?" Daniel indicated the porch steps. Cal dismounted and tied his horse and walked up. He looked at the house, at the 2 chairs on the porch, at the creek visible in the distance. "Nice piece of land," he said. "Gets better every year," Daniel said. They were quiet for a moment. "Heard in town you were planning to get married," Cal said. Daniel looked at him. "You a friend of hers? Of the family?" "Never met either of you before today," Cal said. "Then what business is it of yours?" Cal looked at him steadily. "None," he said. "That's the point I'm here to make." Daniel waited. "There are 2 men in the dining room of the hotel right now," Cal said, "who have made it their business, the way men in small towns make things their business without being asked." He looked at Daniel. "I spent 28 years as a sheriff. I know what that kind of talk costs when it accumulates." "I can handle talk," Daniel said. "Yes," Cal said. "What about her?" Daniel was quiet. "She is walking into a town that has already decided what it thinks," Cal said. "That's a different thing than you handling it. That's her carrying it, every day." Daniel looked at the creek. "I know," he said. "Does she?" "She knows better than I do," Daniel said. Cal nodded. He believed that. "I'm not here to tell you not to do it," Cal said. "I'm here to tell you that when the talk becomes something more than talk, you will need someone in this county who can make a call." He reached into his coat pocket, not for a gun, for a small card. He handed it to Daniel. "Federal deputy appointment," he said. "Still active. If anyone decides to make your private life their official business, that card is worth something." Daniel looked at it. "Why?" he said. Cal thought about it. Because the right thing is usually the thing that nobody else is willing to stand beside, he said. He tipped his hat, rode back toward town. They were married on a Saturday morning in October. Not in the church. The minister of the church had declined, politely, with regret, but clearly. They were married by a justice of the peace named Harold Birch, who was 71 years old and had been marrying people in Crockett County for 30 years and had long since stopped caring what anyone thought about his decisions. Birch had been a friend of Cal's father. Cal had ridden to see him the week before the wedding. He had not needed to explain much. Birch had listened, nodded, and said, "What time?" The ceremony was short. The witnesses were Cal Briggs and Harold Birch's wife, a small woman named Agnes who cried at every wedding, regardless of the circumstances. Saya wore a dress she had made herself, simple blue cotton. Nothing Apache about it, nothing Texas about it either, just a dress she had made for the occasion. She had decided weeks before that she was not going to perform either world for this moment. She was going to be herself, in a dress she made, beside a man she chose, in front of two old people who showed up. When Daniel put the ring on her hand, she looked at it for a long time. Then she looked at him. He looked back. Neither of them spoke. Agnes cried. Harold Birch shook Daniel's hand and then, after a moment's consideration, shook Saya's too. Cal did not shake anyone's hand. He simply nodded at them both and walked outside to wait with the horses. The first year was hard in ways neither of them had predicted. Not because of each other, because of the space between two worlds that does not disappear just because you have decided to cross it. The women in town were not cruel. They were careful. The specific carefulness of people who have not yet decided what they think and are waiting for someone else to decide first. Saya understood this. She had grown up watching her uncle navigate exactly this kind of waiting. You do not force the decision. You make it unnecessary. She learned the names of their children. She learned who needed what from the general store and mentioned it in passing. She fixed a fence for the widow on the North Road without being asked and without mentioning she had done it. She was not performing goodness. She was being patient in the way her uncle had taught her, except now the patience was for something she had chosen rather than something she had inherited. It felt different. Daniel watched her do this and understood something he had not understood before. She was not adapting to his world. She was building something new inside it, something that had never existed here before, something that required both of them to work. He started learning Apache properly, not 20 words, the actual language. He was terrible at it. She thought this was the funniest thing she had ever seen. A 6-foot Texas rancher sitting at the kitchen table every evening mispronouncing words she had known since she was 3. The first time she laughed at his pronunciation, he went red, and then he laughed too. And the house had a sound in it that it had never had before. In the spring of the second year, Saya's uncle came. Daniel saw him first, a figure on horseback at the edge of the property, alone. He went inside and told Saya. She stood at the window for a long moment, then she walked outside. She did not ask Daniel to come with her. She walked alone to the edge of the property, where her uncle sat on his horse. They looked at each other. He was older than she remembered, or she was seeing him differently. She was not sure which. He looked at the house, at the creek, at the land. He did not speak for a while. Neither did she. Finally he said, "Is it what you thought it would be?" She thought about it honestly. "No," she said. "Harder?" "Different," she said. "Harder in ways I did not expect. Easier in ways I did not expect." He nodded. He looked at the house again. "He is good to you," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," she said. Another silence. "Your mother would have come," he said. "She is not well enough to travel." Saya felt something move in her chest. "Tell her I am coming to see her," she said. Her uncle looked at her. Something shifted in his face. Not forgiveness exactly. Not approval. Something more complicated than either. The acknowledgement of a man who made a line and watched someone he loved cross it, and is still not sure he was wrong to draw the line. but is no longer sure she was wrong to cross it. He reached into his coat. He held out something, a small beaded bracelet, the kind mothers make for daughters. She made this, he said, before you left. She asked me to bring it when I was ready. Saya took it. She looked at it for a long time. Then she looked at her uncle. Thank you, she said. He nodded, turned his horse, rode back the way he came. Saya stood at the edge of her property until he was out of sight. Then she walked back to the house. Daniel was on the porch. She sat beside him. He did not ask what had been said. She put her hand over his, and they sat there as the afternoon went long, and gold over the hill country they were building together. Saya was not the first person to cross a line that everyone around her said could not be crossed. She was not the last, but she did it the way it has to be done. Not with a declaration, not with an argument, with a choice, made quietly, in front of her chief, with everyone watching. She did not ask for permission. She did not ask for understanding. She simply walked out and built the life she had decided to build in a one-room house on 200 acres of Texas hill country, with a man who was terrible at Apache, and a beaded bracelet on her wrist, and a slow, difficult, specific peace that had never existed in that place before. The chief drew his line because he was trying to protect something real. Saya crossed it because she was trying to build something real. Both of them were right about what they were doing. That is the hardest kind of story, the kind where no one is wrong, and love is still the most expensive thing on the table. Every week on this channel, the Texas Frontier gives us stories like this one. This story is a work of fiction, inspired by the real people who built lives across lines that everyone told them could not be crossed. If it stayed with you, subscribe. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever chosen something that cost you belonging? The next town is already waiting.